If you've changed your diet, taken all the supplements, obsessively tracked your cycle, booked the appointments, done the manifesting, but you're still not pregnant and you're struggling, then this episode is for you. The thing that might be quietly sabotaging your life right now, it isn't that glass of wine that you had, and it isn't because you didn't believe hard enough. It might just be that your body doesn't feel safe, not logically, but neurologically. Today, we're talking about the one pattern I see over and over again in women who are trying to conceive, living in chronic survival mode, and how that state affects your overall health, your mental health, and takes over every single part of your life. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for pressing play and sharing your time and your energy with me today. Now, you know already that I am so obsessed with helping you understand your body and your nervous system and how that impacts your whole life and your fertility. So today we're taking a deep dive into why. And if you didn't catch last week's episode with Anna, the anxiety coach, I highly, highly recommend you go back and listen to that one now, because she went through so many wonderful strategies for helping us recognize when we are in that state of survival mode and how to work ourselves out of it as well. So go back and listen to that, because she's also an amazing speaker and you will get so much from that episode. But I want to help you with this episode to understand how living in this state of chronic survival mode impacts your overall health. And it really leads to everything feeling impossible, like your dream of having your family just keeps getting further and further away. Now, if you are a new listener, please know that this episode is not about stress causes infertility. That is not what we do around here. That is absolutely not the vibe of my work or this podcast. Now, we do know studies will show us that chronic stress can lead to a longer time to pregnancy, but we also know that women who are stressed get pregnant every day. So whilst this episode is not really about demonizing stress or making it, think that you have to get rid of it completely, it's more about this idea of being in chronic stress and survival mode. It just makes our lives miserable. And I think really, genuinely, that is the biggest issue. And then fertility is that thing on the side that gets impacted along the way. So I don't know the answer of when you're going to have your baby or what you need to do in order to get there. But I do know what it's like to feel like your whole life is on hold, that you are no longer yourself and you have nothing to look forward to anymore. And that is what I want to help you with and help you get out of, so that this time in the waiting, this time that's going to pass anyway, I want to make sure you bring some joy back into your life so you feel capable again and to know that what you want is on its way. I want to start this episode by going into what sabotage actually means. And this is not self-blame. This is not you are doing anything wrong. It's nothing that you have done or differently or could have avoided. But really what it's about is that your body prioritizes survival over reproduction. Fertility is this quote unquote safe times function biologically. A bit like, having long hair and long nails. And if you ever notice how your hair and your nails tend to break, or your hair will fall out a little bit more easily when you're stressed and going through times of stress, these things are not essential for survival. And our poor brains don't really understand the difference between modern stress and ancient stress. Our ancestors who lived out in tribes, who were constantly searching for food, fending off predators that were potentially going to kill them while they were asleep. We don't have all of those stresses in our modern lives. But our bodies and our nervous systems still respond the same. So when you are stuck in a traffic jam or your boss calls you into a meeting and you think you're going to get reprimanded for something or whatever it might be that comes up in our modern lives, your brain still thinks that it needs to go into survival mode. You can look calm and still be dysregulated. I certainly was. One tiny thing would tip me over the edge. I recently had this incident where my husband has been looking for a job for a long time. Things have been a little bit stressful, and we had a bit of our roof that was leaking that we desperately needed to get fixed because it was causing water damage. And I was coping with things. My husband was overseas at the time, and I thought, no, we'll get these builders in, we'll get this fixed, everything's fine, we'll move on. And while they were here, they dropped a ladder on a balcony and completely smashed it. And I thought I was going about my day, cool, calm, and collected. And when this happened, I lost my mind. I was yelling, freaking out, like storming around the house. It completely threw me. And yes, this is not a great thing to have happen, but it isn't life-threatening. And for hours, days after that, I was in this like chronic state of survival mode. I could feel my heart rate had increased. I couldn't sit still. I was constantly irritable. I couldn't think about anything else. And, it will get fixed. It will sort itself out. It is not something that's going to impact me in a big way or my future, right? But I think it's these little things that happen and you think you're doing fine and you think you're coping with things fine, and then something goes wrong and your whole life is just turned upside down. That is that underlying state of dysregulation, and that is how we can start to recognize we're in that place. And I think the journey of trying to conceive, it creates this sense of survival mode itself. There's so much that is riding on it, right? So this idea of being hypervigilant all the time, it sort of feels like that keeps us in control. It feels protective, but it is exhausting for our nervous system. And I want to remind you that you are not broken. Your nervous system is protective. And when you think about it, this is such a beautifully evolved system that your body and your brain has developed in order to keep you safe. So what does survival mode look like when you are trying to conceive? What does dysregulation actually look like day to day? So I touched on this, but it can look like things such as obsessively tracking and using ChatGPT or Google to diagnose and give you answers, or running down these Reddit threads or Facebook groups, finding people who had the same symptoms or same diagnosis as us, really trying to control the situation. You think, I will just ask this one question, and then 2 hours later, it's 1 a.m., you're still scrolling Reddit threads, and it's just is this rabbit hole where you get nowhere. It can also look like constant comparison. And I think things like social media make that really, really difficult. We are constantly comparing ourselves to others and think, well, they started trying after us and they got there before we did. And it just brings you back into dysregulation every time. Often find you have this inability to relax and rest. Like, can you just sit and wait for the bus or the train? Or do you need to be doing something constantly, like checking your phone? Can you watch TV at night and just enjoy whatever is on the television? Or do you need to be scrolling your phone at the same time? Irritability and sleep disruption are really huge ones. Loss of libido, which I know being on the fertility journey does take a lot of that away as well, but that is often a sign of dysregulation. Constant tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your belly. You have these catastrophic thoughts. You think one little thing will go wrong and then it's like, well, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be a parent. I'm just going to lose the baby again without any evidence that this is actually going to happen. And I think just having this constant feeling of being behind in life, that is all what survival mode looks like. And again, none of this is a weakness, and it's nothing that you are doing wrong. It is your nervous system trying to protect you what it thinks is unsafe. And you getting your heart broken again from another negative test, that feels so unsafe to your poor body and to your poor brain. So, how does survival mode impact fertility? We're going to do a quick science lesson because I think that's really helpful. If you haven't heard this before, I have spoken about this a few times on the podcast, so we'll make this very quick. But basically, what happens is that your adrenal glands, who produce your stress hormones, one of those is cortisol. Cortisol in particular can disrupt the HPO axis, and that is the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian connection. And that is a very delicate dance between your brain telling your ovaries every month when to release an egg and then producing that progesterone to support potentially an early pregnancy. So when stress or cortisol goes up, to keep making cortisol long term, what happens? So you have a precursor hormone called pregnenolone, and that hormone is responsible for making both cortisol and progesterone and a lot of other sex hormones downstream as well. Now, when you are using a lot of energy to make cortisol, it steals from your body's ability to make progesterone and those other sex hormones downstream as well. We also find that blood flow prioritizes vital organs for survival, not reproduction. So if you think about being in a state of fighting for your life, like if you're running from the saber-toothed tiger, your body is going to say, what do I need right now to run away from this tiger? Probably not fight the tiger. You're going to run. So it needs to send blood flow to the extremities, your arms, your legs, to really make you run. It takes blood flow away from the thinking analytical part of your brain as well, because we don't need to play chess or, do a complex maths equation when we are in survival mode. We need to let our bodies take over. So literally that thinking part of the brain goes offline. We might find things like brain fog tend to be a big problem for us. We go into a room, we're like, why did I come in here? Or, we can't focus at work. Those things tend to happen as well. We notice that sleep disruption also increases stress and impacts progesterone production. Inflammation increases in chronic stress as well. And your libido decreases under the threat perception, which we've talked about as well. Stress can have such a huge influence on your body, and it sucks. It really, really does. And yes, it can impact your fertility, but you look at all of this and you're like, it just makes my life feel really hard. And I think that is what I think we should really be focusing on. How can we make our lives feel better? And then as a flow-on beautiful result of that, it's going to support our fertility as well. I want to point out though, that when you have lived in survival mode for so long, it starts to be part of your identity. And not only that, but you get to the point where your brain actually thinks that it's doing a good idea keeping you in survival mode because you've survived. Your brain doesn't know that there's not a saber-toothed tiger waiting to, eat you when you get out of bed in the morning. It doesn't know that this constant stressor of your fertility journey, these constant thoughts of, will I ever have my family, aren't life-threatening. So whilst we are going down this horrible spiral of high cortisol and then sleep disruption and our lives being thrown out of whack, your brain thinks, well, she's still alive, so I'm doing a great job. I'm going to keep her in that place. Trying to conceive can become your full identity. Your whole life is dictated by it. I'm sure you can relate to that. And without realizing it, you postpone joy. You say to yourself, I will be happy when. I will be happy when I get the positive pregnancy test, when I get to 12 weeks, when I get to 20 weeks, when I can 100,000% tell you from experience and watching so many people go through this journey that your brain will never be happy if it is in constant survival mode. There is nothing that you're going to get that is going to make this magically disappear. So we need to find ways of supporting our bodies through it now so that when all of those things happen, when you finally do get the baby of your dreams, you're not still living in survival mode. Control will always feel safer than surrender. And this is how you end up living your life. I'm not going to let anything go to chance. I'm going to control every tiny little piece, everything I put in my mouth, every supplement I take, every appointment I go to. Control is always going to feel a lot safer than saying, do you know what, I'm just going to go out and have pizza on the weekend. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to enjoy myself. Or, that sense of letting go can feel really, really difficult for your brain. So what do we do instead? I want to give you some practical regulation tools, and I'll just list a whole bunch out. Now, do not feel, please, that you have to do all of them every day perfectly, starting right now. I want you to choose 2 or 3. Try them for a week, see how you feel. And be aware. So when you do make a couple of small shifts within your life, be aware by writing down anything that may change. And you might find that some of these things have no impact at all. And that's fine. Now you know. We can perhaps ignore that. Let's try something else. But I want you to get into the habit of keeping a list of these little signs of progress that your body is making, because that reminds your brain and your nervous system that you are moving out of that place of survival mode. So write down anything that shifts, and then maybe you want to add a couple more. Go back to the list, add another couple more if you can, repeat process. I just want to note a little bit about when we're talking about stress and especially the trauma of this journey, past traumas, and especially anyone who has a complex PTSD event in their lives or throughout their childhood. This is where you really want to work with a trauma-informed professional who can really help you in a guided way. Find that if that is you, the fertility journey can bring up so much of what happened in your past. So if you feel like you have done everything and you're not getting anywhere, then perhaps your next step is to reach out to a professional who specializes in this area. And if you need recommendations, please let me know. I want you to make this actionable. So let's go through the things now. But the first step is always going to be awareness. Know what is regulated versus dysregulated and what that looks like for you. So are you sleeping well? Are you finding you get into a panic when your phone rings or you open up your social media accounts? Starting to notice the things that happen in your day that are throwing you off course. So let's start with from the moment you wake up in the morning. Here are my favorite regulating tools. First thing, put your phone away. We don't need to grab our phones first thing, check emails, scroll, go through all our messages. If you use your alarm to wake you up, fine. Turn off your alarm, put your phone down, done. Come back to it. I would love it if you could leave it for the first hour of your day, but at least half an hour. You can start your day with a 5-minute breathwork practice, just bringing awareness into your body and your breath before you begin today is incredibly powerful. I find it really sets the tone of your nervous system for the day ahead. Now, if you don't know how to do this, I do have some amazing resources that you can download for free. I have a detailed fertility yoga guide, which is completely free, and this goes through some daily breathwork practices that you can do. So you'll find the links to that in the show notes. Sunlight on your face, 5 to 10 minutes, or an early morning walk is super wonderful and regulating for your nervous system, helps set your circadian rhythms, does help you prepare for sleep the following night. So if that's something you can do, and I know depending on where you live in the world and what time of the year it is, this can be easier said than done, but aim for that if possible. Movement throughout the day. So sitting for 8 hours at a desk and then going to the gym is not as helpful for your nervous system as moving once every hour. So whether that is you just get up from your desk, you walk around, go around the block, come back, or even, you get up, you do 10 air squats, something that just keeps your body moving is hugely regulating. Make time every day to get out in nature, whether it's a walk, whether it's 5 minutes, you can put your feet on the grass or just notice the colors and the shapes and the smells in nature. Again, hugely beneficial for your nervous system. Think about screen time. I know I kind of sound like a broken record with this one as well. Screen time is obviously unavoidable with our lives and our work. But when you're not needing it, are you still reaching for it? Like, are you just reaching for your phone when you're bored? Be aware of that. There's nothing wrong with scrolling funny videos on social media. I love doing this, but it's not something that you should do as a default. I'm bored, I need my phone. And just recognizing when we are reaching for that, when we could be doing something else as well. Regular nourishing meals is such a wonderful thing to do for your body. And no, I'm not talking about let's be perfect with a fertility diet and all the perfect foods. No, but just be conscious of what makes your body feel good. Now, I don't know about you, but a really delicious bowl of ice cream makes me feel really good. Probably not every single day. I might start to feel a bit sick, but if you've been out for dinner with your friends and there's a gelato shop next door and you think, oh my gosh, I could just do with a beautiful scoop, do it. These are the things that are good for your soul. Of course, we want to include all the good things, the proteins, the healthy fats, the fruits, the veggies, all these things, but there is food that's good for your soul as well. And then as you start to wind down for the day, what does that last hour look like before you go to bed? This is so, so important. Just before we get into that last hour, one of the easiest little tips I heard from a sleep doctor once was to employ this 3-2-1 rule before you go to bed. So 3 hours before you go to bed, you stop eating. 2 hours before you go to bed, stop drinking. And an hour before you go to bed, all screens away. Now, I think that's the most important part. So what does that last hour look like? Cut out the noise. Can you read a book? Have a hot bath, shower, get into bed, relax, meditate. Legs up the wall for 10 minutes is a hugely beneficial yoga pose that is very calming and regulating for your nervous system. And go to bed at the same time every single night. You can't always control if something will wake you up in the middle of the night or what time you have to be up in the morning. But if you can go to bed at the same time every night, that feels a little bit more controllable. But also don't be obsessive. If you want to go out on the weekend and just enjoy your life and have fun with your partner and go out for dinner, do that as well. But as much as possible, we stick to, can we go to sleep at the same time every night? A couple of other technology tips. I know tech is so helpful and yet so destructive if we're not careful, isn't it? But honestly, think about finding your trusted people and decide to tune out the rest. So yes, there are a million fertility doctors on the internet and some of them are great, some of them are boring, some of them resonate with you and some of them don't. But do you just find the people that you absolutely trust and cut out the rest? Set limits on, I'm going to go down this ChatGTP session now and just go through this loop of endless information discovering. Set a limit on it, whether it has to be 10 minutes, okay, I'm done. And just know when you are getting into those spirals. And again, not before bed. All of this goes away an hour before bed. So that's just a bunch of things that you can start to employ. Maybe if you need to come back to this episode or just jot a few of those things down, let me know how they make you feel. The other thing I really, really want you to do is restore pleasure. And this is so important because coming into regulation is not always about the meditations and getting the sleep, but it is also about truly enjoying your life again. And this is not goal-oriented intimacy. And oh gosh, when my husband and I were trying to conceive, we didn't even contemplate having sex unless it was around ovulation. So I get it, trust me. It's so boring and pressured and awful, isn't it? But can you teach your body that intimacy can be something that is not always tied to fertility? Is there a way that you can do that? Talk to your partner about it. Is that something that you are missing in your relationship? Maybe not. Maybe you guys are all over this and it's not becoming a chore for you, and that's amazing. But if it is there a way you can bring some of that back into your relationship? I want you to ask yourself as well, if you were not trying to conceive right now, what things would you be doing? What would you be focusing on? All of this brain space that has been taken up by your fertility journey, what would you be allocating that to? Would you be wanting to write something, to go and start a new hobby, to start a business you've been thinking about for such a long time? This can be a really lovely way to open up a sense of what is possible. Can you have an afternoon, or even better, a whole day that is strictly non-fertility related? Just fun stuff that you love. And I don't know, I'll talk about, this is what I would have loved. Go and get a massage. Be lazy. Just go and have a cocktail after work with people who make you laugh. Eat the chocolate. Have the pizza. Just every now and then, whether it's every week or every 2 weeks or as much as you can, have a zero fertility day or afternoon, however much time you can allocate it. I want to talk now about completing the stress cycles. And this can be a little more complex. And again, if it is something that is coming up from your past or your childhood that is quite traumatic and your fertility journey is triggering that, you may need to work with someone who can guide you more deeply. But there are practices that are gentle and that can help. And especially when it's all of these small traumas along the way that really trigger us. So it's like, oh, I wish I'd said that, or I wish I'd asked that in this situation, or I wish I had reacted differently. So what we can do is remind our brains that they don't really know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So if your brain is currently going on repeat, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done this, you can go back into that memory gently and then play out what you wanted to have happen. And this is called completing the stress cycle. Now, when that comes up and you are feeling quite dysregulated, there are things that you can do to help let some of that energy physically out of your body. So shaking, moving, dancing vigorously, crying, letting out that anger, scream into a pillow or in your car or somewhere where people can't hear, or even if they can hear you, who cares? Punch a pillow. Allow your body to move some of that tension away, and then just allow your mind to go through that situation. And I want you to complete that stress cycle and resolve it in your mind. It might be something that you need to do a few times, but hopefully then when you remember that particular situation, you are not as triggered and you feel like it doesn't bring up as much as it used to. The last thing I want to mention here is this idea of expansion, of expanding your life. And this comes back to a little bit of that question, well, what would you be doing if you weren't trying to conceive? But can you invest in something in your life that is not fertility related? Book a course or an activity or a new hobby, something you could do with a friend or even alone that just really gets you out of that space of this is never going to happen. Plan a trip, and it can be little and you can book something that's fully refundable, but it's not because going on a holiday is going to get you pregnant. I'm not that person, but because it's something that is not fertility related and you can plan it and get excited about things. And that is a wonderful way for you to have something to look forward to. Speak about your future in the present tense. This might be something you want to do in your journal, or you want to speak to yourself about this in meditation. But can you start to talk to your baby? Just talk about your life. Pretend your baby is in the back of the car with you. This is a wonderful way for your brain to start realizing what is possible. And this ties back into a lot of manifestation work, of which I have many episodes on. So that's something that you want to touch on a little bit more, go back and have a look at some of those apps as well. So as we finish up, I just want to, for a few moments here, if you are driving, obviously don't close your eyes, but if you are sitting comfortably at home or if you need to soften your gaze, I want you to take a full deep breath all the way in. And just ask yourself these 3 questions now. So ask yourself, what if my body isn't sabotaging me at all? What if my body is actually protecting me? And what if safety is the missing piece? You can place a hand on your heart, a hand on your lower belly. Take a deep breath and just see what comes up when you ask yourself these questions. And anytime you feel yourself getting dysregulated, remember it is your brain thinking you're unsafe. So put a hand on your heart, take deep breaths, and then add what you need to help you through the day. Now, remember, the goal is never not to stress. The goal is to go from this house is on fire to I think I'll just move this candle away from the curtains. So it's a gentle reframe. And also, if you missed our episode last week with Anna, the anxiety coach, I highly recommend you go back and jump into this one as she explains some of the science part in more details. She explains it differently to me as well. And I find sometimes if you hear something from another perspective, it can start to click in other ways. She also had so many other tips and tricks for you if you are finding you are stuck in that state of dysregulation. Have you found this episode today helpful? Please share it with someone. As we all know, we never realize who is struggling, so it can help the people that you don't even realize by sharing. I would absolutely love it wherever you are listening or watching this. If you could leave a comment or a written review, that would be incredibly beneficial for helping us get this information out to as many people as possible. Now, next week on the podcast, I get to sit down with Alyssa Chavez, who is a functional medicine practitioner and an energy healer who will explain how to heal your relationship with your body on this journey and learn to trust yourself again. So I cannot wait to have you back next week for that episode. But until then, I am sending you all of my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students who are on their fertility journey is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life. Your days end up being filled with endless appointments, navigating pregnancy announcements. You're trying to eat right, take all your supplements, and it is all you think about from the moment you wake up. I designed the Element Fertility Yoga course to support your body, your mind, and your mental health in 3 important ways: to synchronize your hormones, increase circulation and blood flow, and to help regulate your nervous system. But on top of this, the greatest gift that you can give yourself throughout this journey is a sense of peace, to help you calm your mind and just make this process feel easier. Every single one of my students tell me that this is the first thing they notice after starting a yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. But on top of this, you have the amazing benefit of actually supporting and increasing your fertility. Studies have shown that those participating in mind-body programs as they're trying to conceive have success rates 3 times greater than those who don't. The course I've designed walks you through natural conception as well as fertility treatments and IVF cycles. And the best part is you can work through it at your own pace in the comfort of your home. The practices start from just 10 minutes per day. To learn more, visit elementpilatesyoga.com or see the link in the show notes.